I'm going to talk to you about love and what's that got to do with anything. So, and why is it important and why do we need connections? What is that all about? So, to fill you in a little bit, because of course you know the teacher always teaches what they need to learn. When I was very young, I lived in Battersea in a very community-orientated street. What that means is that my whole street was this kind of street where people were in and out of each other's houses, and every day after school, I went to my neighbour's house where I danced every day to reggae, and sometimes she had musicians around who drummed, and I danced, tea, toast, and dancing, and it was all very loving and probably very bohemian and quite chaotic. But I had that sense of community and love and freedom. So no matter what happened, every day I realise now, I had that sense of going to my neighbours, dancing, letting it all out, going home, doing whatever I needed to do. And when I was 12, very suddenly the neighbour died. So within 4 days of me knowing she was very ill, because people hid it, I think people wanted to protect me because I was a child, she was dead. And it was such a complete shock. I actually thought it was a joke. It wasn't a joke, it was real. But when you're 12, that's very hard to take on board. I didn't even know what death was about. But shortly after that, my parents also got affected because the whole street got affected by this whole community loss, because she held space for most people in the street. And my parents split, the next door neighbour left, we all moved. And suddenly we were in a different area, in a different place, where no one had even heard of this neighbour who was so important to me. And my heart broke. I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was I closed off, and I decided that instead of feeling I was love was outside of me. So love was boys, love was poetry, love was music. It wasn't me. And I knew there was a complete switch over. I knew there was this moment of I was love, and I felt like, okay, something could be very difficult at school, very difficult in life, but somehow I had this little haven where I danced it all off, had tea and toast, and went on my way. And suddenly I didn't have that. The haven was gone, and I was looking for the haven. When I heard, for obvious reasons, Bob Marley sing, I would feel my heart melt again, or if a certain poem, or I fell in love, but I didn't have that feeling all the time. So it was like an electric switch. You know, sometimes it would be on, a lot of times it was off. But I knew there must be a way back. So I went to Manchester and I studied how to teach dance and drama and teach that to people. And I felt, as soon as I started that, myself line up. And I thought, oh my God, there's a way back. But my heart was still like concrete. But then I started teaching. And what happened was, by teaching and being with other people and feeling the love, I worked mainly with people with disabilities, and feeling their love, they were so happy for me to come and teach them. I felt myself melting. I felt this, well, first of all, I felt the concrete of my own heart. And then I started feeling it lessen and melt and warm up. And after a while, I thought, gosh, maybe there are other people in the world like me who are living a smaller life, who shrunk themselves down because of grief, because of loss, and because of fear. So I started to run talks and workshops, and I started to teach in different countries. And I was probably your typical hippie, thinking, oh, we can all do love. Well, let's just paint and dance, because that was natural to me. So I would go and run these workshops where we all painted and danced, and and we did a little bit of drama. It was all fun. And in 2011, I did a course, and I had some people who were like, what's love? And I was thinking, oh, what do you mean, what's love? We're just going to paint and dance. We can do some self-love exercise. You're going to feel really, really good. And they were like, no, we want some intellectual reasons about what's love. Why are we actually doing this course? I thought, oh my goodness, what do you mean intellectual reason? I don't know what the intellectual reason for love is. No idea. And they were very upset. Many of them had been divorced, and they were coming on. It was called Letting Love In, a week of play. And they were very upset because they said, love does not exist, okay? Doesn't exist. And unless you explain it properly to us, we're not on for it. And I thought, this has got to be the worst moment of my life, because I didn't feel intellectual probably don't feel intellectual now. I certainly didn't then, and I was in Spain in the mountains, wondering where am I going to get this intellectual book on love. So, and explain why we're painting, and doing all these things that seem childlike but fun to me, but they clearly weren't to them. And I thought, right, okay, I've got to go and study. I've got to go and study this stuff called love. I've got to find out what is this thing called love? Does it matter? Why do we do it? Why are we getting involved with people? What's the whole thing about? It's obviously very dangerous stuff. I've been floating along for a long while trying to encourage people very naively, and suddenly someone's caught me out. It's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Most people have been bitten hard and they don't want any of it. I don't blame them. I think I was floating around hoping no one would catch me out, realizing I was so dangerous. So I went to train to be a sex therapist and discovered all about falling in love, PEA hormones, which make you forget about this person's picking their nose in the morning or doing all kinds of ungracious things, because you've got these hormones that make everything seem pink and everything floods away and you fall in love. Or you've got oxytocin, which gives you a lot of happiness, or dopamine, which gives you a hit. That's why you want to go back for more. This was really good. This was fantastic and wonderful. But it was very intellectual. And I would work with individuals. I work with couples, helping them to communicate or find out how they're getting more confident sexually if they need to. But there was something I thought, I can't just do this intellectually. This can't just be an intellectual exercise of, it's a good idea to be nice to each other. Really, it is, because I'm sure you're going to get the best out of your partner. You know that sexual problem? Just say nice things. I just felt somehow that's not going to do it. That's not going to kind of win them over. And I discovered something called bridging. And bridging is this amazing art form, couple counselling method, embodied couple counselling, which for me is very helpful because of being so into dance and realising the idea of the body and the release and the let go. I somehow knew that you could talk things through and argue things through, but there was something about letting yourself being in the body. What bridging does is the idea that, especially in couples, what you do is developed by someone called Hedy Schleifer, which comes from the work of Harville Hendricks, which is the idea that you pick someone, you employ them to trigger you all out. And you say, you're going to do it to me, baby. You're going to trigger me. You're going to get all that stuff that I couldn't dig up when I was young. And you're going to make me feel really good as well, but you're also going to make me feel really, really bad, because only you would care enough to really make me feel that awful. That's right. So I'm going to pick you, and we're going to commit to each other to really make it bad. Because we've got all this stuff that was unmet when we were young by our caregivers, all this pain, all this trauma, all this stuff, and we pick someone because your therapist ain't going to necessarily call you on it, nor is your guru, nor your meditation teacher, but your partner, they will. So, because they see you in the bathroom, well, maybe, they see you in all different ways. And so what happens is, in a couple, when they're in a bad place, they trigger each other. And hormonally, we call it a cortisol dump. When you have cortisol, adrenaline, and testosterone running through your system, and we have something called limbic resonance, where the couple's brain match. And what happens is, so one person might be stressed, come in the door, and the other person will feel, I'm stressed. And they can even have an emotional hangover the next morning. And they wonder, why aren't they talking to me? Why aren't they talking to me? Because they keep swapping stress hormones all the time, you know. And while they're in this stressful place, and you can be years, but you committed to stay there. That's right. And what happened, the reason why is because in couples, you regularly have, and this is all quite general, and of course there's very, very different permutations of each thing that obviously works out. But in couples, you have a high desire often and a low desire. And in bridging, we call them octopuses and turtles. What does that mean? It means in couples, and it's because it's magnetic. In couples, you will often have one person, and it can vary, and it can change over. But you often have one person who's, where are you, who are you, why haven't you texted me, what's going on, why aren't we travelling to the desert tomorrow? And the other person going, if I just pretend I'm not here, they won't notice me. And and that's the turtle, hiding away person, and the actively searching person. And of course, what can you think happens when one person's hiding, not speaking, and the other person's desperately seeking? What happens then? A lot of distress. A lot of distress. I know that. Who said nothing? Yes, nothing. Well, the turtle might think. I don't know if the turtle thinks nothing's going on. If I just hide away. But the octopus can get very, very desperate. I don't know if anyone relates here to being an octopus, but the octopus thinks, why aren't they speaking? Why aren't they saying? What's going on? I can say what I feel. How do they feel? I say, how do you think they feel when you're speaking like that? What? Are they a fool? Why don't they speak? How comfortable do you think they're feeling when you speak to them like that? Why? Why not? So what we do in bridging is we help to equalize the space. And we help to equalize the space by helping them to understand if they create different conditions, which means slowing down, relaxing, connecting, looking at each other in the eyes. We also put them 17 inches, 43 centimeters apart, that's right. Very close. There is a reason for that. And it's because it's way less triggering when you create a very comfortable, I put lots of cushions around them as well, so they're comfortable. And because what can happen is you can have an intellectual conversation with, oh, when I do that, I really upset you, do I? But if you put people in very comfortable, cushioned place, very close together, and you slow everything down and you get them to connect, the world changes. They suddenly can, and you guide them, you do visualizations. It's very much like hypnotherapy. You slow them right down. They have the chance to really hear each other. And we do something called generative listening, where one person is really listening to you. And what happens is, on a brain level, when you've got someone at 17 inches, 43 centimeters, and you're doing generative listening, when you really feel they're there, you can really hear yourself. And then the person who's speaking speaks in essential statements. So they're not having a chat, they are finding what's really important to them. And what happens is the couple starts to feel like it's when they fell in love. How when you fall in love, you look at each other, you can't stop touching each other, you want to be together. And what happens is it starts to create community again, community with each other. And they learn about each other's different worlds. So you are naturally drawn to someone who is completely different to you. And so they don't make any sense whatsoever. And the idea of bridging is that you're going to learn their language. So somebody might learn Catish. I'm going to listen to my friend Lauren. I'm going to learn Laurenish. And we visit, and you go on this thing, we call it the organic journey, where you understand, you visit the world of when they were a child, what happened to them, their dreams, their wishes, their visions. We set visions for where the couple's going to go. So they find their visions are similar, or if they're different, that's also helpful to find out. And so we have a North Star. We know where we're going. We look at why do they argue? What happens? And they discover it's when they are upset and they are arguing in a certain way and they're using certain body language and they're moving in certain ways. And then they learn how to bridge. They learn how to slow down. They learn how to listen. And they learn to transform this traumatic world into a heavenly world. Or as some people call it in EFT, which is another lovely couple method, the unicorn world. That love world. And so what happened to me is that I learnt that couples left to their own devices are very, very isolated. And in olden times, what may have happened was we were all part of a community. And of course, in big communities, you can lose your individuality. It doesn't mean just being in community means it's all wonderful. but you may have in the olden times had more friends or more people around. Couples wouldn't have had this whole you've got to be everything to me. You've got to match my whole world. There wouldn't have been such an emphasis on this isolation. And left to isolation, we can be triggered in our blame game, in our negative action game. So I suppose what I'm saying is that love now, although can be still a dangerous word, is about finding out what that is for each person. What is it that's going to keep you safe? What's going to keep you regulated? So really, a lot of the work is that couples don't speak on entrance, on exit. They wait to find the right moment. They slow down. They sit with a cup of tea. They might read something like a poem to calm them both down before they share something important. And they get used to. Thich Nhat Hanh said, if you could, in your couple, go once a week to a cafe, so you're out of your domestic situation, and say 10 appreciations each, and then just talk through any of your issues, you will solve all your couple problems very quickly. If you're any more traumatized than that, you can also see a couple counsellor. But he was talking about if you slow down and listen to each other, what happens is you become a we. And there's a birthing process of a coupleship process. Yeah, which is when we have a relationship, I'm relating to you from me. I'm just talking about me to you, or I can relate to this table, me to the table. But when you think of being a coupleship, there's a third dimension. There's a we, and when you slow down, if you think of the couple, one high desire, one low desire, both of them are fighting. The slower one may be saying, let's slow down, let's watch lots of films, let's do less. The high desires, let's do more, let's do more. You've got this kind of topsy-turvy world. When you become a we, you work that slower person and the more heightened person together, you get something electric, you get something dynamic. And that comes from the two of them working it out. And that's when they heal themselves, but they don't just heal themselves, they take that healing energy everywhere, and that's when they become full of purpose and full of love. And although, again, love, that dangerous word, you could say, what's going to keep you safe? What's going to help you be kind? What's going to help you feel community? I personally think that couples need a lot of other people in their lives, huge amount of people in their lives, to help be in a couple, because it keeps you equalized. If you don't have a lot of people in your life, you just think, is this person a nutter? Who am I with? But you check in with someone, you go, yeah, my partner does that. Oh, yeah. These things happen. It's kind of normal. You go, oh, yeah. Go back to them with a little bit of reprieve. And so I suppose what I'm saying is, out of this, these moments, the death of my beloved neighbour, which cut my heart off, and then my journey, I suppose, where I felt like such a fraud when people went, what's love got to do with it? What is love? And I thought, I don't know. I have no idea. That kind of took me to be a sex therapist and a couples counsellor, and actually to learn there is a whole world that couples can live in. And many couples do, and many couples might just live there. But for those that it's not that easy, equally for individuals, you can do bridging as individuals, or take that concept into your family life. If you have difficult relatives, slow down, breathe, just listen to them. Anyone you find difficult, if you do this practice, but again, give yourself enough support to do that. That's the key. Because if you give yourself enough support, so people talk about having a safety list. That's enough people that make you feel good. That's activities that keep you feel pleasurable or playful, that light you up. And that's all kinds of things that can help you ground you. Like Sally was saying, what affirmations do you need when you're doubting yourself? So what do you need to keep you regulated? Then the world can become, can I say that dangerous word? Full of love. Thank you.